Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you.
So our next speaker is Shelley Huxley and leads Weir.
No, I'm actually the other one. Thank you. Thanks very much. How amazing to see you all here at the very, very end of this conference. We feel very blessed that you've actually stayed, and I've been turning my head, making sure you all are committed to this presentation. So thank you so much. We feel, again, very privileged and very proud to be here today, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. For those of you in the room who don't know, the name MACS on the screen is an acronym for the Melbourne Archdiocese of Catholic Schools. So we won't say the full acronym through the presentation, but we'll use the word MACS, so that helps you understand our context. My name is Liz Weir, I'm the General Manager of Child Safety, and Sally Huxley is my Manager of Child Safety. And I think it was Tina that said yesterday, there's a collective genius and wisdom in this room over the last 3.5 days. And I can attest to that because last year when I attended as a participant, I met the most amazing, incredible leaders in safeguarding around the world. And I cherry-picked from every individual that I met. And I was able to bring back to Australia and my home the pieces that were relevant to us. So I'm hoping we can share a little bit with you that you might be able to take back for your community, your school, your environment that might help you. And this is our story and our journey. So this is a change story. It's really important that we share with you that we started this journey about 18 months ago, and we are just at the very, very beginning. So please know that this is not a perfect product. We're in continuous engagement and improvement, and we're hoping in the last couple of days that we're going to actually now take back more feedback and feed that back into this particular product or strategy. But the first thing I want to share with you were 2 questions I took home from the conference last year. And the first question was, what if everything we did or currently doing at MACS about child safeguarding was wrong? What if everything we did at MACS to protect children in our schools had to change? These 2 questions were very challenging, but we realised we had to make a change, because what we were doing in our organisation was not working. And we had some challenges, and we're going to talk through those challenges now with you. And hopefully in the next 10 minutes, we'll give you some insights on the changes that we're making. Just to give you some context, I'm hoping most of you will know what the map of Australia looks like. And so this represents our home and where we are situated, and all the little blue dots are all the numbers of schools that we have and oversee. So Sally and I are a small team of 2 in this organisation, and we oversee 300 Catholic schools. We obviously help support 16,000 staff and approximately 14,000 students, both primary and secondaries. So you can understand how we needed to think more broadly on scale about how we implement something into our organisation, because what we were finding was everything was coming into the 2 of us. And when there's a critical incident in one school, you can imagine on a given day there might be a critical incident in 20 schools. So we were getting lots of calls. So we had to rethink about how we best support our staff and endeavouring to do that. So today's focus, because we only have 10 minutes, today's focus will actually be on what we're doing for our staff and what we've started to change. Again, we really needed to shift our narrative, and this is why we were really pleased to see the theme for this year, transparency, accountability and compliance. Can I tell you, they are the 3 areas that we had a lot of challenges in. So we did not have this right. And in some instances, we were very challenged in our 300 schools on getting consistency and making sure our staff understood their obligations. And for our staff, I think it's important that we highlight to you that they saw child safeguarding in a negative way. And they only saw and talked about child safety when things went wrong. They never talked about child safety in a preventative way or a proactive way. At times, they were paralysed in making decisions, particularly when there was a critical incident. They were frightened and scared about making mistakes in child safety. They found the legal frameworks, the 11 child safe standards, policies, procedures, really overwhelming and difficult to understand and break down. So we needed to do something to help our staff think better, and we needed to shift the paradigm of their language from "I can't do this, I don't understand," to "I want to do this, I do understand." We thought we'd just share this beautiful piece of Aboriginal artwork with you. So this was commissioned. We have permission from the artist to share this with you, and we've spent some time with the artist Bailey in preparation for this conference. And we thought we'd share this with you. This Aboriginal artwork is central to our change story, Max Care. It was commissioned to represent our organisation's journey and commitment to reconciliation. The artist deliberately chose our Max colours and understood our mission and captured it absolutely beautifully. And you will see it once you go into our Max Care microsite, and on our collateral we give out today, we use this artwork as a centrepiece, as a way of us recognising reconciliation and our pathway forward. Ooh. You can see we love colour, surely. This is our poster, and we debated this for literally hours and changed it so many times. And that's our QR code, so feel free to jump into our microsite at any time during the presentation. But our poster is part of our change process. We realised the words of child safeguarding and Catholic schools was a barrier to our staff feeling safe to talk about proactive child safety. We deliberately chose the word care for our strategy. We purposely put the children at the centre of the poster. We chose care for these reasons. It gives hope and brings positivity. Care is the positive change and the narrative we needed in our organisation. And care, most importantly, helped our leaders in our schools feel safe to be able to be in conversation about child safety. They felt more confident, and in this confidence grew their own decision-making around critical incidents instead of having to call potentially into our office. This is powerful and very empowering, and the feedback we have received from our staff is that they now feel that they can do this, and that is a really big shift for our organisation. This slide represents, in a visual way, the 11 months and 11 standards, which Sally will talk about in a moment. We have recently had legislative change in our organisation to mandatory reporting obligations. And we needed our staff to understand and not feel overwhelmed by the amount of legislation and information coming towards them. And so, obviously, with Sally now, she's going to give you a little bit more detail and give you a bit more of an understanding of Max Care.
Thank you, Liz. What an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. I am going to start by talking a little bit more about our legal requirements. Liz did touch upon our child safe standards. These are uniquely Victorian, and as you can see on the board, there are 11 of them. This is also the shortened version, so each of those bubbles represent a legal obligation. Actually, I remember starting this role thinking, how am I going to remember all 11 of these, and how are our schools going to remember them? But beyond that, how are they going to embed them and live them every day? Within Max Care, we developed a campaign referred to as 11 Months, 11 Standards. The name suggests it's pretty self-explanatory, I hope. We focus on one of these child safe standards per month with the aim to inspire action and embed these standards into everyday school life. I want to provide some examples of the resources we developed. As part of 11 Months, 11 Standards, it was important that we gave schools a basis and some resources or materials in which we could send them on their journey. We understand that there's not a one-size-fits-all when it comes to safeguarding, but we wanted to provide some templates and examples of best practice and how they may embed that within their own cultures and their own contexts. On the left-hand side is an example of the parent and carer newsletter we developed, and our data was telling us as well at our local level that parents and carer communities did not feel included in conversations around child safeguarding, and it's a message that we've also heard over the last few days, the importance of including family and community in that process. Liz touched upon earlier around the stigma that still exists between our uniquely Catholic context and safeguarding. We recognise this throughout the creation of our materials, but we're really proud of our Catholic context, and we've applied a Catholic lens throughout all of our materials. The poster in the middle not only serves as an awareness piece, but it also helps schools meet their compliance obligations more broadly. And again, you can see that Catholic overlay throughout the materials. One that we are particularly proud of on your right-hand side is the scenarios. What I've heard a lot over the last few days is that people feel a lot of fear around safeguarding, responding to disclosures of abuse and connecting with this subject more broadly. The scenarios provide school leaders, provide school staff and everybody working in those environments with an opportunity to practice responding to disclosures and child safeguarding matters before they occur in a safe learning environment. They're encouraged to make the mistakes there, they're encouraged to practice and learn, but also, more importantly perhaps, is that these scenarios have been developed from the experience of Liz and myself in the field. So we know they're relevant, we know that school staff are likely to come into contact with one of those scenarios, and we've had some really great feedback so far. This one here provides some additional information on the other resources we have developed, but I guess the message for this particular slide is one of scale. Liz mentioned earlier that we are a small team of two, and it's just not realistic for us to be attending all 300 schools to go through 11 standards. It's quite a task, but beyond that, we want to empower our school leaders, our school community, to really take safeguarding seriously and send that message that it's not only the responsibility of our team, it's everyone's responsibility. And we want them to be really proud in doing so. This one here, albeit it is a busy slide, I do want to bring your attention to that middle little mascot that I've got here today. There's a bit of a story behind this one. Everything on this page can be found on the microsite that the QR code came up before, but if you did miss it, I'll pop it back. Oh, it's on the slide, so you can have a look now. Full disclosure, Liz and I developed this mascot fairly early on in our Max Care journey, and it was published on the site, but beyond that, we hadn't really promoted it further. But it wasn't until I attended a school recently, and going into their front reception, you can learn a lot about a school and their culture of safeguarding. But these little mascots were littered all around their front reception area. And when I was having the conversation with the principal about how they're engaging with this little paper mascot, they indicated that it was serving as a beautiful conversation starter for parents and carers coming through their doors to talk about child safety and how it's being embedded within their school community. But interestingly enough, beyond that, it was a primary school. And for those who are very familiar with primary school age students, they're very inquisitive, very interested in everything, and ask why a lot. So this little mascot was serving, again, as an age-appropriate, trauma-informed conversation starter around, this is what we're doing here, this is how we're keeping you safe. And they've affectionately named it Mac. So we wanted to share that. But I guess the point here is that though we've developed resources and templates, we really encourage schools to use this in a way that suits their context, because though our culture, or many cultures in Melbourne, are quite unique, even within our school communities, there are cultures among cultures. So we really encourage schools to have that autonomy and independence with using those resources. To conclude, I guess today Liz and I recognise that a number of you won't be working within school communities, But I suppose what we've learned over the last few days is many of our challenges are similar and what brings us together as well. So we do hope that we may have inspired you in some capacity. Perhaps there's something that you can adapt within your own local context. But it's been a real pleasure to listen to you all over these past few days. And as Liz said, I think it will really help form the rest of our Max Care journey also. Moving forward, we would really like to focus on some data collection, gathering further feedback, and hopefully when we come back next year can share some of that with you and some more of our learnings. But again, this is our story and our journey, and it's certainly not yet over. Please do, if there's an opportunity to connect with us, feel free to take a photo of the slide. We would love to connect with anyone here. But on the way out, Liz and I will pass anyone who's interested one of our Max Care cards and badges. But thank you so much for your kind attention today.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz and Shally. Yes, they said care is a positive change, that we all need to work together for safety. Thank you. So any questions for Liz and Shally from the group? Yeah.
Thank you.
There is.
There's one. Yep.
Microphone. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you once again, Liz and Sally. My name is Christopher, and I represent the Morris Brothers. And I'm just curious. I have a question in relation to, I know you've been working with about 300 schools, and it's a lot of load to take on. In terms of the resources that you continue to produce, I want to bring your attention to the poster there. In terms of inclusive, has there been any thought around inclusive education so that you can design your posters in terms of those with special needs? Thank you.
I think if I correctly heard you, is there any consideration around inclusive education? Is that correct? Yes. So again, we've given you a very small snapshot of what we're doing at MAX, so the Melbourne Archdiocese of Catholic Schools. But connected to Max Care, we have what we call a vision for instruction and a vision for leadership and a vision for engagement, which are all connected, and particularly the vision for engagement is around inclusive education. So it definitely is part of our pathway forward in our journey. And again, if we had more time today, we could talk about all those. So it is definitely part of our rhetoric and our story. Again, we can certainly share some of that with you if you make contact with us, for sure. So thank you. Wonderful question.
Thanks, Liz and Sally, for a great presentation. I particularly like the pineapple colouring on the programs. Curious about, you said staff were very on board, feel cared for and wrapped around. From a management perspective or a leadership perspective, did you find you got support from the outset, or was that a bit of a battle from an organisational perspective?
Yeah, that's a good question. We did get asked at the very beginning when we came forward with this strategy around Max Care and the use of the language care that shifted away from child safety. There was definitely a sense of maybe doubt and concern. And so we didn't do a big launch into the community. We let the school and the staff understand it first. And so we think the positivity and story has started there at the grassroots, and that has made its way through to now our leadership. And before I came here, I trained our board on Max Care, and now I'm on the agenda frequently. But if you had to ask, had I been there beforehand, it might have been yes, but we're not sure. So now I suppose what we're being asked about too is having the data that supports the strategy. And that's something that, again, we're only sort of 6 months into this strategy, and now we're starting to think about what that data needs to look like. Again, I think that's been the language change and shift has come from our principals and our schools, and that then is now giving us the confidence to keep going. Good question, thank you. Yes.
My name's David Penny. I'm with Australian Catholic Safeguarding. I just want to affirm what a wonderful presentation that you've given us, and to take the chance of changing the name. I mean, really, that's what we've been talking about. How do we make something applicable in that particular cultural environment? And it was a wonderful example of that. And I will definitely be making sure that we encourage you to, show that around in other places, because there's so much learning back in Australia for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm being truly honest when I say to you that last year's experience at this conference made that change for me. So for you, those of you who are sitting here today, being either part of this conference frequently or looking to come back next year, that's the richness we take away from this global community of safeguarding leaders. And I know that when we go back home, Sally and I were talking about what are some of the things that we've learnt this year. And I think that we can strengthen what we're doing. And so thank you. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liz, Weir and Shelley. May I